Hey there, it's Crafty Jennabug. I have decided to take a step away from the junk journal today to make a video or a few videos. I'm not sure yet exactly where this will go. I have some friends who want to learn how to crochet, and I figured the easiest way for me to teach them how to do that would be to make a video. Even though I can be there in person with them teaching them, having a video to refer back to when they're practicing when I'm not around, or simply just being able to see from my perspective what's being done might help. I was trying to teach my daughter not too long ago, and she got really frustrated because she wasn't seeing it exactly from my perspective. You know, it was kind of shifting and holding in an angle that she couldn't see exactly what I was doing. So this is going to be a beginner's tutorial style video for crochet, absolute beginners. I know there are a lot of other tutorial videos out there that are probably much better at explaining, but this is mine. So first thing we should probably talk about is the yarn. When you are choosing a yarn and trying to decide on what size hook you need to use, you can go to the back of the yarn and it'll tell you on the back what you need to know about the yarn and how to work with it, what size things you need and whatnot. So this is a Lily Sugar and Cream brand cotton yarn, and it is a medium 4 size yarn. That refers to the thickness of the yarn. 4 is considered worsted weight. There are actually a lot of different variations I've found in the thickness of a worsted weight yarn, so that can be a little difficult to ascertain if you're trying to mix different brands of yarn. Like a Red Heart Super Saver might be thicker at a 4 than this Lily Sugar and Cream at a 4. So you will have to use a little bit of discretion. But honestly, the hook size on here is a recommendation. I wouldn't go any smaller than that, but I frequently go bigger than what it says on here. In fact, I'm going to do that today. If you are knitting, this tells you the size knitting needles that you need, a US 7 or 4.5 millimeters. And this shows like a swatch. If you were trying to figure out, if you're making a garment or anything you need to do a swatch for, because you really absolutely have to stick with a certain size, then this tells you that 4 inches by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimeters, how many stitches. You have 20 stitches across and 28 rows to achieve 4 by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimeters. This here shows the hook size, a 5 millimeter or a US H/8. And this is washing instructions. I can't remember what all of these mean. I think that's machine washable, machine dryable. I don't remember what the triangle means. That's don't iron, and I don't remember what that means exactly. You also, when you're picking yarn, especially if you're buying yarn at a store, you want to pay attention to what's called the dye lot to make sure that your color, there's no variation in the colors. This is color number 01222 with a dye lot of 23, 25, 52. So if I needed 6 of these in this color for a project, I would want to make sure that all 6 had that same dye lot number, because even though the color country green would be the same, because they dyed it in different batches, the color might be slightly off. I don't have an example of that to show you at the moment, but it is something to be aware of when you're purchasing yarn. So another thing is, we're not going to get there yet, but if you're making a pattern that requires a specific amount of yarn, you want to make sure that you have enough. So let's say I'm making a blanket that needs 500 yards. These are 120 yards a piece. I would want to make sure that I bought enough of these. What's that? 5? I'm mathing. Hold on. It would be 4? No, I would need 5 of these. Yeah. Anyway, you can probably math better than I can. And then a lot of the times there are free patterns on the label. This one has a knit feather and fan dishcloth, and it tells you it's beginner, intermediate. This is this right here shows the skill level. So this is, middle of the ground. It's not quite beginner. It's a little past that. And that you would need 1 ball and what size knitting hook or knitting needles to use to make that pattern. So that is covered. If you have any questions about the yarn, things I didn't cover, feel free to comment. I typically answer. This is the crochet hook I will be using. It is an I 5.25 millimeter, and if we go back to refer here, it said 5 millimeter or US H8. A lot of the times your crochet hooks will have different millimeter sizes per letter based on what brand. I like the Boy brand because of the way the hook is shaped. Some people like Susan Bates, etc. There are lots of different brands. Boy is my preferred brand because of the way the hook is shaped. So this is a minimum requirement, really. As you start getting comfortable with crocheting, you may realize that you crochet a bit tighter, so you want to use a bigger hook or a smaller hook, or like stick with that size. I know for this yarn, with the way I crochet, it catches better if I use an I. I and J are really my most commonly used yarn. Now, I thought that was going to be easy, but that is not the center pole. Yarns, when they're in a skein, always have a center string where it started to be wrapped, and they have an outer string that wraps around the outside. This is my outer string, and I could pull from there. I would probably want to pull the label off, but I prefer to dig around inside and find an inner one because it just, I don't know, it flows better. I don't have to worry about this rolling all over the table. There we go. Nope, just kidding. It's here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this and I'll tuck it under. We're gonna actually start crocheting. How exciting. All right. So I am right-handed. My dominant hand is my right hand. I do not know anything about left-handed crocheting. I am slightly ambidextrous, but crochet is not something I am ambidextrous with. There are some tutorials. I know the Crochet Crowd has a lot of free crochet tutorials. They're amazing. Like, lots of free patterns. If you want to go check them out, I highly recommend it. They are fantastic, and I've used their tutorials quite a bit. So there are lots of different ways to hold your hook. I'm not going to get into those because I'm not well versed in them, but I know it's a simple internet search to find a way that is comfortable. Like, some people hold it like this. That doesn't work for me. I like to hold it. I played the violin for a long time, so I tend to hold my crochet hook similarly, like this, finger on or thumb on the flat part right there. It just allows me a bit of movement. And then as far as holding the yarn, hold it in my other hand. And one thing you want to keep in mind when you're crocheting is you have to control the tension of the yarn while you're feeding it over to the hook, kind of thing. One way I like to do this is I will wrap the yarn around my pinky, and that way as it's going, it just allows me a little bit more control. I'll expand on that a little bit in a moment because I've realized I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm not the best teacher. I apologize. So the first thing we're going to want to do is take the yarn. I like to hold it like this. Oh, I'm out of frame. I like to hold it like this. We're going to make a slip knot. Leave a little bit of a tail. I wrap it around my index finger and make an X. And then I pull this loop a little bit. And I pull it over. Grab the yarn that made the X and pull it through. I'll try that again. Loop it, cross it, give a little slack, pull it over and through. There are many ways to make slip knots. You could do it like this and then stick your hook under, grab that and pull it through, and then tug on the tail. That's an alternate way that I've used before. I'll show that again. Cross it over 2 fingers, or make a loop over 2 fingers, cross it on the side, stick your hook under the first one, grab that, pull it through, turn, pull your fingers out slowly while pulling the tail, the end of the yarn. And then to tighten it, you would just pull the part connected to the yarn skein. That is the working chain. It's on the hook in this area. So then this tail is just going to kind of hang. When I'm starting a chain, I like to hold it over here, because when you're chaining up your yarn, it can get in the way. So again, now we're going to focus on tension. I got my tail held over here. I'm going to hold the yarn like this. And I like to wrap it around my pinky. And then that lets me use my index and thumb to kind of hold that and work it. So I've just got it loosely around my pinky. So I take the yarn and put it on my pinky, wrap it around loosely. I'm not, you know, hurting my finger at all, and then pinch. And since I've got my tail over here, I don't have to worry about it dangling and confusing it for my working yarn. To do the first chain, I put my index finger on the loop on my hook just to keep it in place and to keep it from twisting, because it will twist. So I keep my finger here, and then I loop over, and then I take my fingers to pinch and slide that yarn into the hook and then through that first loop. I'll do it again for the second one. Hold that, let some yarn go through my fingers, wrap it over, hold this, turn my hook so that it doesn't get stuck here, turn it so that it can get in that V shape of that chain. And that, now I have 2 chain stitches on here. We'll do another one. Finger on top, wrap over, pinch the chain that you've made, turn your hook to catch the yarn and pull it through. And I'll show you something else. When you're starting out, sometimes it's pretty loose. I mean, I have it tight, but not too tight. Like, I've got a little bit of working space right here. You might end up with a chain that's very big compared to the other ones. You want these to be as close to the same size as possible, but while they also give you enough room to work in, because you're going to end up putting stitches in these chains. So you don't want them to be super tight, because then you can't get your hook through there later. So now, if you mess up, if you don't like what you're doing, if you're stuck, you can just hold where you made that first slip knot, the base of that, and just pull back down to your first loop. Make it a little bigger if you need to. Stick your hook in, and then just tighten it a little bit, and then start over. You may have to start over, and that's okay. Don't be discouraged. Let's start this again. We're going to do a chain of 5. We're going to do 5 chain stitches. This does not count as the first one yet. This is just the working loop, okay? So wrap over, grab the tail, turn and pull. Now that is 1 chain. It's a little wonky. I'm going to just pull a little bit while holding it so that I don't just pull it, make it a bigger loop on my hook. Pull there. So that's 1 chain. Yarn over, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chain stitches. You can see that it kind of forms a V shape, and that's what you want to see. The V coming out of the previous one, and then the top of that chain is behind the next stitch, the V of the next stitch. I'm going to chain 20. So I've got 5, I'm going to do 15 more. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You see how sometimes I'm pulling a little to make them a little bit more uniform in shape? It's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that is a chain of 20 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 stitches. This is what the backs, if I roll it over, this is what the backs look like. You just have like one, looks like one little hump. One little hump. So this is the top of the stitch, this V shape, and this is the bottom of the stitches. So we have 20. Should we try to make something out of this? Maybe a little square? All right. We're gonna now practice single crochet. And I think I would like this to be 20 stitches wide. So I'm going to need to chain 1 more to be the side of the piece. So we're going to chain 1 more, and then you see this V shape in the hump underneath? We are going to insert our hook with the loop on it underneath that V. So that's one side of the V, and that's the second side of the V. So we've got the V, so we've got our hook under the V, but not under that back hump of the stitch. And we still have our working loop on there. This is where things get a little crazy. You ready? We're going to take our yarn over the hook, catch it on that hook, and then pull it through the V. So then we'll have 2 loops on our hook. And then we will take another yarn over and pull it through both of those loops. And that is our first single crochet stitch. This V shape being the top, this being the side of the stitch. Let's try that again. See how this is this big gap right here? This is the bottom hump, and this is the V that was the top. So we're going to take this working loop still on there. So here's the V shape. It looks a little wonky because of this other stitch, but it'll even up, I promise. We're going to take our hook under the first side of that V, and then under the second side of that V. So we've got the V on the hook. So we've got the hook between the V and the back hump. Okay? And we've got our working yarn. We've got our working loop. We're going to yarn over, catch it with the hook, pull it through the V, and then twist up to the top of that, right? This was the first single crochet. This is the second one we're doing. Yarn over, pull through both loops, and pull a little tight. That is 2 single crochet stitches right there. Here's our bottom hump of the first of the chain that we worked on, and then this is the side of the stitch, and this V shape is the top of the stitch. All right, let's go for the third one, right? Hook under the one side of the V and the other side of the V, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. You might have to like wiggle your hook around a little bit, twist your hook to get it through without catching on the other yarns. And then we have 3 single crochets. Let's do another. Yarn under, grab the yarn, pull through, yarn over, grab the yarn, pull through. And again, under that side, under this side, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull oops, uh-oh, I just dropped my loops. So in that case, you will just stick it through both if you can. If not, that's fine. Just pull this loop out. This is your working loop. You can just stick it through there and continue. If you dropped that loop or you accidentally pulled it, uh-oh. This is the working loop. This is the second loop you did. The sooner you get your hook back in that working loop, the better, because then you won't end up unraveling everything. So now we're back down to 1, 2, 3 single crochets. We've just backed up a little bit. No big deal. We'll carry on from here. Fix our tension. Yarn over, yarn under there. Pull through, yarn over, pull through both. Hook under there, yarn over, pull through both. So I'm speeding up a little bit now. Uh-oh, this looks weird. All right, let's look at this. This looks a little twisted. I see. My hump got pulled up a little bit, my bottom hump. So it looks a little strange, but if I stick my thumb in there and just kind of wiggle it around, I can see this is one side of my V and my other side of my V is over here looking a little, I got my hook in the way. This side of my V is here, this side of my V is here. So I've got to carefully put that side through there. And then Oops. There we go. This one looks the same. It's a little off. There we go. I'm just going to take these single crochets all the way to the end. I might speed this up a little bit if you need to go back and watch. That's fine. I'm just not trying to make a super long video that nobody will want to watch. All right, let's check and see how many V's we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, this will be number 10. That'll put us halfway there. Cool. Alright, so this is my last stitch. It's going to be a little tighter because I tightened it pretty tight. So if you're having a hard time getting in this way, you can always gently stick your hook in that way and twist it. Alright, that's my last stitch. Alright. Now let's count and make sure that we have 20 stitches across the top. Count your V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I didn't miss any stitches. Hooray. And that is how that looks. This is the side, the bottom, and the top. Now, how about we go across again? Does that sound good? Sounds good to me. I'm going to get my working yarn and I'm going to chain 1 because that will count as the side and will keep me from accidentally undoing the stitch that I just did. So I chained 1, turn the whole piece, and stick it. One thing, once you've done your stitches in the starting chain, it's a lot easier to get through. You see that hole it makes right here? It's a lot easier to find where to put your hook in the next set of stitches. So if you struggled with putting stitches in the starting chain, this is now easier. It was hopefully worth the struggle. So we've got our working yarn, stick it through so that we have the V on top of the hook and the rest of the stitch underneath. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Pull a little tight so it's not super loose. That mine actually is a bit looser than I want it to be, but it's fine. It'll be fine. You see? You stick it in under the V, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2. So if you were reading a pattern, this would be yarn over, or no wait, I'm sorry. If you were reading a pattern, it would be insert hook, yarn over, pull through up loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That would be the instructions for doing the single crochet if you were reading it. Some people learn better by reading the instructions, some learn better seeing it done, some learn better from a diagram. And you will find once you start looking for patterns, there are lots of different ways that they are written. One reason that my stitches are so tight, some people crochet very loosely. You could leave it like that, it would be fine. But I'm notoriously a tight crocheter because after I make that stitch, I pull it a little bit. Just a little light tug, and then I pull, if I have a big loop, I pull it down to about the same size again, and before inserting my hook. So let's say I have a big hook, or let's say I have a big loop this time. When I insert my hook and pull through, I've got a lot of loose thread up there. And then, oh wow, that's a big difference between this stitch and the last one. So I can pull, I mean that top loop is still pretty big, so I'm going to pull that one out because it's bigger than I want. But I can adjust some of the tension in the stitch by pulling at the top. So I bring it close. Let's say this time I pull up a lot of yarn, and that loop is bigger than this loop. No biggie. I'll yarn over, I'll pull through both, and then I can just adjust the tension. This loop stayed the same, but this loop this part adjusted. It's all about consistency, really. Keeping your stitches even. We're almost at the end again. Really, crocheting into that first chain is kind of a pain because the stitches, the loops you're working into are a little strange to get used to. But once you get past that initial row, I find it's quite easier to find where to put your hook. All right, we have 2 more. Alright, let's count our V's to make sure we got the right number of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I like to keep my thumb to mark whatever number I was just counting. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Did you get 20 stitches on that one? If so, pat yourself on the back, because you just did your second row of single crochet stitches, and that's an accomplishment. So give yourself a minute and celebrate. If you struggled, go back, rewind the video a little bit, try again. Or if you're really frustrated, it's fine to put it down and come back later. Sometimes crafting just be like that. Do you think you can go across again? Just like we did last time? Because from here on out, it's just repetition, baby. Once you get the chains and the first row of stitches in that beginning chain, it's all repetition for this. If you were doing a more complicated pattern, that would be otherwise. But from here, anything's possible. We could go, once this is square, we could fasten off and make it a washcloth. We could keep it going for a long time and make a scarf, just a plain, simple scarf. That's fine. I've made many of those. So, let's go across again. I'll show you one more row. Chain 1, turn, insert your hook, yarn over, or insert your hook, oh fuck. So, chain 1, turn, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, single crochet, bam. I'm going to go a little faster and go across, and then I'll show you how to fasten off. You don't have to stop here. You could keep going until this is the size of whatever you want it to be. Another thing to note is I crochet differently than most people. I yarn over with my left hand. A lot of people will stick through and do everything with the hand their hook is in. I've been told that I crochet like a knitter. I taught myself. We're at the last stitch. Stick it in, pull through, and then let's say we're done. I get to the end, I cut my yarn, and then I just pull through like I was making a chain, but I pull all of the rest of that yarn through and pull it tight. And that is how I would fasten off that. If you don't want these on the ends, which most people don't, you can use a needle, a yarn needle, and sew it in. Something I learned from the crochet crowd is to sew it in multiple times in 3 different directions. Something I learned from the crochet crowd is to sew an inch or 2 and then come back and then 3, do it a 3rd time in that same direction, and it's going to prevent it from coming out as you wash it or wear it or use it, whatever it is you're making. I'm going to, you see this is the bottom, and you see those humps? I'm going to stick in on one side and then come through. You could do it like that. It might be a little noticeable, but if you don't care, I don't care. I mean, it will be noticeable once you stop. So we could do it like that, or we can pull that back out. I'll show you right side up. You see this little upside down V shape? That is the side of your single crochet. Your single crochet stitch is this and this. Okay? This is the top of your stitch. You take your needle and you stick it underneath the up and down part of the stitch. And you'll hide it a little better. You can do one at a time, or you can string it up on multiples. You want to make sure you're not pulling it so tight that you pull it out of shape. You want to keep making sure you're flexing it back into that squarish shape. And you're not going all the way through, you're just picking up those little side pieces on this side. Once you've gone a little ways, that's about an 1.5 inches across, I like to turn it and start going this way, usually through the same stitch. And you don't want to go through where you just came out, right? Because then you'll just undo all the work you did. So skip that first part and go into the second, and then into the next. And then what that'll do is it'll create a little spot where you can't really tell it's there. It's a little thicker here, but to the untrained eye, you might be able to get away with it. And then I stick it through all the way into the last one, all the way through the last one. You could leave it there. It will probably come out. It's not that much thicker, but I'm going to skip this one, the last part I came through, go through to here, and go through there one more time. You got to be careful not to get stuck in the yarn you already sewed in. We'll make this final pass. and that shouldn't go anywhere. I mean, it is a bit thicker there. But then you would just cut this flush, and you're good. You can do that with the top as well. Pull that tight. Stick it. This is the bottom, the first up and down part of the stitch. Go across a few. About 1.5 inches. Don't go in the last one you came out of. That was the second pass. Skip this first one. Trim your yarn right up against it so that it hides the tip of the yarn. And there we go. It's a little twisty because I didn't make it quite long enough to not be twisty. But there we have it. I did 3 rows, 1, 2, 3 rows of crochet stitches, 20 stitches in each row. Again, if I had made it taller, it would have been a nice washcloth. That's it. That's the basic, that is the most basic stitch in cross stitching, the single crochet. So in this video, you learned you've learned about the yarn, how to read this label a little bit so you know when you go buy yarn what hook you need. If you didn't have an H, you could probably substitute an I, or whatnot. You learned about dye lot, also very important, and weight, length of the yarn. Learned how to do a chain stitch, how to do a single crochet stitch, how to fasten off and weave in your ends. I think that is a fine foundation on how to crochet. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you learned something cool and fun and new. I do plan on making a few more of these videos showcasing different stitches. This is definitely like the absolute beginner video. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If there's something you think, if you are an experienced crocheter and there's something I missed, let me know. I would love to correct myself. Like I said, I'm not the best teacher. I am self-taught, so that may adjust things. I've been crocheting almost 30 years. I hate to say it. But I am what I would consider an experienced crocheter. I have no fear of hitting those expert level crochet patterns without any, like video tutorials or anything. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I really do. I hope this was helpful for you. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.